Hey, Phil, why did the casino dealer go broke?
What was that, mate?
He couldn't deal with his problems.
Oh, my God.
All right, guys, today's number is $12 billion.
$12 billion.
$12 billion is the amount of money that people lost to the slot machines in the financial year 2020, 2021. The total losses in Australia to gambling was about $24 million. So if we summed up all of the gambling through the casinos, through the online crypto, through every other aspect, almost all of it was lost on slot machines.
Wow.
So if you've got friends or family nearby, get them into the casino.
At least away from the pokies, eh? That's full on.
And for the purpose of the recording, and we have the intro music playing, and then we have the actual podcast starting now. All right, Phil. And from that note, let's talk about why looking poor could be the key to building wealth.
Mate, I mean, if the theory works, I should be a billionaire. But yeah, no, we can definitely talk about that.
I think just off the back of that cold open here, look, the concept is pretty simple, which is it's those aspirational items in life that are really, really expensive that we sort of will chase down, try and keep up with the neighbors, and then actually it holds us back so much more in the future. So, like I would like to say, like from framing the conversation, which is clarifying the difference between looking rich and building real wealth. And so, Phil, like, what's your views on like why looking poor can help build wealth?
Yeah, look, it's a funny one, but I think you hit the nail on the head with the start. It's that whole keeping up with the Joneses, I guess, is probably got a lot to do with it. You know, you think about how many apprentices that have probably barely cracked 20 are driving around. Well, maybe not down your neck of the woods, but certainly up here. Driving around with the brand new 79 series with 60 grand worth of bloody stuff hanging off it. They're 20 years old and earning next to nothing and live with mum and dad. So, straight away, that's a good example of someone who looks like they're rich, but they're very poor, and that's the opposite of what we should be trying to achieve.
I think it's like I always find but like there's always someone there to opportunistically prey on things. I remember feeling really weird about when you saw like the jewelry stores that are offering finance to try and get people to buy that better engagement ring. And this is going back nearly 10 years ago now. But when I was in the jewelers and the guy's like holds his hand out and he gets a different type of diamonds and he goes, well, how much do you love her?
Oh, God. Yeah, right. Ouch. I mean,
and then we have
an
easy payment plan right here. Look how great she's going to look how happy you're going to be. Look how great you're going to feel. Yeah. Look, I just want to, I think in terms of, the most clear focus on building wealth rather than image is probably on Zuckerberg. If anyone recently has seen Mark Zuckerberg's complete rebrand, it's T-shirts, gold chain. The guy's got a literal boat. But if you saw him walking down the street, the way that he presents is just sort of not a common everyman, but I think just being mindful of just saying, the Uniqlo clothes are just fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think 100%. So everyone probably knows some variation of this story, but I remember this one pretty clearly from when I was a kid. And a very, very, very rich individual that was sort of somewhat associated with the family, not because we're rich and running in those circles, just because people employed by them, whatever. I won't get into the story, but
you've got such a chip on your shoulder, Phil. You've got to tell the world that as well.
Yeah, exactly.
We weren't rich.
No, okay, nothing to do with me. Someone I'm related to, but anyway. Long story short, rolls into the car dealership to take the top of the line, whatever it was, I don't know, out for a test drive. Sorry, sir, before we can let you test drive this car, we need to run a credit check. I was like, well, don't worry about it because I've got the cash with me to pay for it. Would not let him take it for a test drive without running a credit check, so he walks out. They looked up who he was afterwards and spent the next 3 months on the phone to him. But this is a bloke that was worth, I don't know, he would have been hundreds of millions at a guess. Rolls around in stubbies and a wife beater every day, a pair of thongs. You'd look at him, like the car dealership did, like a piece of trash that was trying to take their flash car for a drive.
Yeah, I had a similar experience as well. Like I walked into a car dealership initially, this is not that long ago, and I knew exactly what I wanted, but they sort of looked at me and then went, what's the monthly payment that you can afford? That was the first thing the guy said to me when I walked in. And I was just like, I don't know. And I just sort of kept looking at the car. And then he just like completely dismissed me and wouldn't talk to us.
It's so funny. Yeah, it's pretty wild, but isn't it? Yeah, it's funny. You look at someone like Warren Buffett, like, you know, to see him walking down the street, he's not look like, you know, one of the richest men on the planet. You know, so from last already, he still flies bloody economy everywhere, doesn't he? I don't know. It's just...
I just don't think he goes. I think he just stays in Nebraska.
A bit old now, but yeah.
So I think the thing is like when it comes to trying to look rich and keep up with the Joneses, trying to do that really does create unnecessary financial strain on the family budget.
Yeah.
And maybe do we get that extra caravan? Do we try and stretch ourselves for that aspirational holiday, or do we just stick where we're at? Look, unfortunately, like where we're at is like the things that make you happy are kind of you've already got it. You know, if you've got that family, if you've got that, you know, you've got a super fund, you've got a financial advisor, you're probably in the top half of the Australian market anyway. It just doesn't feel like it because there's just so many more people with these outwardly amazing lives that seem like they're doing better, but they've just maybe got a lot more stuff. And trying to keep up with them does just create that, you know, really unnecessary financial strain.
Yeah, 100%. And like you and I see this all the time. You know, when we're interviewing potential clients and that sort of stuff, but people that have accumulated quite a lot of debt, they've got all the flash gear.
Yeah.
But there's quite a lot of debt there. And like, the debt's one problem. Okay, yes, that's a problem because now you've got repayments, you've got debt. It's not productive debt because you've spent it on a car, caravan, depreciating assets, whatever. But the compounding problem there, or the reason why that's a barrier to building wealth, it's not just the debt itself. It's that now you've taken money that could have otherwise been used to generate more wealth that you've now got to use to repay the debt. So not only have you put yourself in debt, but you've also robbed yourself of the opportunity to actually build some real wealth through the money that you've now redirected to paying off your car.
Phil, what's your view on the balloon payment with cars? Because I think they just love, like car people just love throwing a balloon payment in. And for those people that, I don't know if you've never done this before, is you'll go and do a car finance, and then what they'll do is they'll reduce your monthly payment, but there'll be a balloon or a lump sum owed at the end. So basically you just go, oh, great, I can get this flash car now for a lower monthly payment, and then future me can just deal with the depreciation and a lump sum payment, I don't know, in 5 years' time. Let's do it.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts?
I'll give you my thoughts. It's an excellent trap for the dealership to pull you into to buy a new car every 5 years.
Oh,
because
okay.
They're presenting you with the opportunity of handing the car back, realising what you've repaid, and then rolling it into a new lease. Cool, they've sold you 2 cars in 5 years instead of 1. That's trap number 1. Look, in terms of purely a way to buy a vehicle, look, there can be times when that sort of structure can make sense. I'll use myself as an example. You know, when I bought what is now my old shit box that I drive around, but back then was nice and new. I put it on a 5-year lease. It made sense from a tax perspective. The leasing actually did stack up. I did the math before I went into it. And I knew at the end of that lease there was going to be a 20 grand balloon payment. I just increased the amount. I just did voluntary payments every fortnight over the term of the lease. So I hit 5 years. I owned the car outright and away I went.
Great.
And that scenario worked great. Saved me tax. It worked. But I would say it is a trap if you don't know what you're looking for. Those type of things can have a whole bunch of, just setting aside even the balloon payment issues, a whole bunch of fees and weird stuff that you don't need bundled in that you don't notice because you're too excited about your car.
Yeah.
And they're trying to trap you into buying another car or rolling your lease and keep paying more interest for longer than you need to. So it is a trap if not managed carefully.
Well, so I mean, like you make mention of, you know, so Phil drives a 2014 Mitsubishi.
13.
What is it?
13. Yeah, 2013 Mitsubishi Triton.
There we go. Which is just an absolute Queensland car if you've ever seen one.
Except that in Queensland you need aircon, and I don't have it. So
right. Anyway, so that's not the point, mate. So the point is, so Phil really lives the world of, you know, not outwardly having something flash. And I think it's just so easy to get caught up in this is a nice car and then just going, oh, we need this and this is what we got to do. And it just really actually makes you actually like the goals that like it just creates the incongruence where if you come and speak to me and Phil will say, what does your retirement look like? What does your ideal cash flow planning look like? How many years are you from retirement? And then going and buying a caravan, car, whatever is actually pushing your your long-term goals way further out.
Yeah, that's true. And I've spoken about this in the past, so you and I might differ a little bit in our thoughts around this sometimes, but I don't always think that's a bad thing.
All right.
It's a bad thing if your primary goal is to build wealth. But some people's primary goal is not to build wealth. Some people's primary goal is to live a good life and have enough for retirement and to be somewhat comfortable.
Mm.
And if it's more important to you to have a caravan and go and travel now and knowing that, yeah, you got the repayments and whatever, but you understand the consequences of that decision and maybe it means you got to spend less in retirement or you got to work a few extra years or whatever, I think that's okay. As long as it's an educated decision, we've had a chat, we've done the modeling, you understand the impacts of the decision you're making and it's still your priority to do that thing, I actually don't have a problem with it. But if you come to me and say, which a lot of people do, I want to make $2 million by the time I retire, or 3 million or 4 million or whatever the number is, and I want to do all this stuff, but I'm also going to go and buy a new car, that's where it's a problem because it does not make sense. You need the cash flow, you need the money to build the wealth.
Yeah.
How often have you been asked, Scott, in the past by prospective clients, what car do you drive? Because I don't want an advisor that drives a worse car than me. I've had that one a ton.
I've never had that before, actually.
Yeah. Really?
Never.
There you go. That's interesting. I thought all advisors had come across that one at least a couple of times.
Not once.
Huh. There you go.
Well, I don't know. Maybe this is a great public way to find this one out, Phil. No, I don't think people do. I think I kind of I'll give you an example. Like in terms of like I guess being on the hedonistic treadmill of life. Like I've got an Apple Watch, right? And in my eyes, as a 17-year-old, I always thought it was the coolest thing in the whole world to have to have like a cool titanium watch. So this thing it's the Apple Watch Ultra, which has got the titanium. And I bought this 2 years ago, and I still to this day think this is the best watch ever. I walked into the Apple store. You couldn't buy a more expensive watch at the time.
Yeah.
But I felt awesome about that. And it had been like a 10-year goal for me, probably more than that, actually. Let's say a 20-year goal for me. And it still gives me an awesome satisfaction. And I have no desire to want to upgrade it. And like I said, I think the only issue is that because it's got the fancy titanium edges to it, it does take chunks out of walls when you walk down the...
Oh, good. Perfect.
Just take a bit of plasterboard out with you. And I'm a clumsy man, so my wife is not impressed. But look, I guess that's an example of like, there is things, if you set your but you just got to do these things in stages, right? So ideal retirement is X, and then short-term goals are Y, and you just need to be consistent and go towards them. And I think it's just that shiny going, oh my God, I've just got this X, Y, Z, the car's up, so I might as well just roll it over without much sort of cognizant thought behind it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right. They all get you the same places.
Yeah.
So
in terms of like encouraging our listeners, or you listening to this right now, to be mindful of that hedonistic treadmill, which is constantly when you buy something, you feel good for a little while, you have the sugar rush, and then you kind of want to buy another thing, which we've all experienced. Have a think in your own life right now where you've done that and either regretted it or been happy about it.
Yeah.
Is there any ones that come to mind for you, Phil, on either of those sides?
Good question. I mean, the camper was probably a frivolous purchase that we made. And to me at the time, I was like, why are we doing this? I'm perfectly happy in a swag, but, wife and 2 young daughters, not so. I felt really good about it, and I still feel really good about it. Actually, I think it was a great decision, even though it was probably an expensive purchase that we didn't necessarily need to make. Now, to be clear, I didn't go and buy the 110 grand Australian-made model. I bought the cheap Chinese one. But still, it was a big purchase for us. But it still brings me a lot of joy, and I'm glad that we own it, and I don't regret it in the slightest.
Yeah. Love it.
To the point where I put it up for sale once, and someone came to look at it when they got here and said, sorry, mate, it's not happening.
So you are the marketplace guy.
Yeah. That'd be me. What about you?
I think the Apple Watch is a good example. I'm really proud of that. I'm proud that I saved up for it. I'm proud that I allocated money aside for it. And, I look back at 16-year-old Scott, he'd be like real proud that I've got it now.
Yep.
He'd think that's really cool. So so that's a good example. But look, I think true wealth comes from confidence and security, and it doesn't come from outward displays of wealth.
No.
And what that really means is something a little bit different to everyone. But probably the true principle of working with us as advisors is making sure you got enough freaking money stashed aside where you have a comfortable retirement for as long as possible. someone who comes to me and they've got a similar amount of debt and super, it's going to be tough because let's say you're 55, 56 years old, you've got, say, $250,000 of debt and maybe $250,000 of super. And, you're an ideal client for us because what we're going to do is help you put in place some steps to really change that. But it's not going to be an easy process. It's the same thing if you go and talk to a personal trainer and engage them. You actually need to do the work yourself. We can guide and follow you and motivate you, but you need to actually walk in those steps of debt reduction and super addition.
Yeah. There's usually, actually, I just saw on the, what was it? It might have been The Project or something was on the other night while I was cooking dinner, and they were actually interviewing a lady retiree that had a significant debt rolling into retirement. But the whole purpose of the story was that it's actually really common, and with sort of what's happened with the housing market over the last few years, it's going to become more common. The average, well, they reckon now even the average sort of, I think, 40-year-old is probably unlikely to be able to buy a house ever.
Really?
And those that will are starting with higher levels of debt later in life. So it's kind of a compounding problem because now the property's more expensive. It takes you longer to save the deposit. You're taking on a lot more debt. You're taking it on later. So it's going to become a more common problem.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult. And it's also going to be difficult as well because you look at the inverted population pyramid in which we've got just a lot more people in retirement in a future date. And that's going to be a way, if you look at your social security portion of the tax base at the moment, I think it's like 40%. Is that something like 30 or 40%?
Yeah.
And there'll be a tipping point at which, if that goes to 50% or 60%, then the remaining workforce are just going to stop working. And then you'll just have either the only way around it will have to be a revision of the age pension, which is going to come.
Have to be some sort of testing on the family home somehow.
It's going to come.
Retirees sitting in $4 million homes and getting the full pension and that sort of gear. Something's going to have to happen there. I don't know what. And I don't know
that's a short-term one, probably. Yeah, they'll do that.
And I don't know which politician's going to be brave enough to take a crack, but
unfortunately, it's a big voting. It's a big voting base, that one.
Oh yeah, you're not wrong.
All right, so look, I just keep in mind on time. Let's wrap this up. I just wanted to highlight the true wealth is about financial freedom, which is in confidence in yourself. Feeling comfortable in your money management skills, avoiding the social comparisons, avoiding those status signaling type moves, e.g. going to the bar and buying the most expensive XYZ just to impress the person looking at you, or trying to do things because it's really not, it's in your heart. You actually don't believe it, but you want people to see how well you're doing, or friends and family to go, oh wow, that's amazing, that's so cool, you bought XYZ.
Yeah.
And I think I challenge you to reflect on is there anything a bit silly that you've done in the past 12 months, and think of it going, at the time I really wanted this thing or this experience or this purchase. Now it's coming to Christmas. I can't even remember buying it. Don't even remember what it was.
Yeah. Pretty much every toy my kids ever asked for. I'll just say, sort of closing thoughts. Like the whole concept of looking poor and being wealthy or whatever that we sort of started out talking about, it's flipping a switch in your mind, right? And sometimes people get caught up in this status and the keeping up with the Joneses thing, because you'll talk to people about the car you own, you'll talk to people about the house you own. That's nobody talks about how much money they got in the bank. So which is a much bigger flex. I'd rather roll around and say I got 300 grand sitting in my savings account than look at the cool car I drive. But no one's having that conversation, so we all just go and buy a stupid car to drive around and look cool. So that's one thing. But the other thing is that flip the way you think about money, because we always think, go to work, you get your paycheck, you pay your living expenses, and you buy stuff. Wealthy people don't think like that. Wealthy people go, I got some money. What can I do with this money to go and make some more money? And they compound it. They're not out wasting their money on crap. They're using the money as a tool to generate more wealth. And that's sort of...
They've done a little bit of, a great strategy is the debt recycling strategy, which is using money in your existing house to then go and buy other assets, which is super powerful. Right. And it's a strong lever that we talk to people about when available and when suitable for them. So that's certainly something that I'll also, that's one of my closing thoughts, which is, if we can put some money, take it out of the home loan, put it against an investment portfolio of X, doesn't matter what, that's a wonderful lever for long-term wealth. So I think we'll leave it there. Phil, anything else you want to throw in?
No, I think that was my closing thoughts. I'm a professional at looking poor, so I've already got that one nailed. I just haven't nailed the super wealthy bit.
Nailed. All right, guys, thanks so much. We're trialing a slightly different podcast medium, if you haven't noticed, and we think it's pretty good. If you could please like and or subscribe on whatever platform you're using, it really helps us out. Doesn't cost you anything, but I think it'll give you value by hearing us chat going forwards about money management and how to improve your lives. Going forwards, next episode is going to be a very similar format. We're super excited. We've got a new marketing support team helping us with these together, put these together. So hopefully they're going to be a little bit more common, pushing out a higher frequency, and generally a little bit better. So with that, thank you so much for listening.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys.